Thank you all for coming out on this possibly rainy night, off and on. Appreciate it. This is a wonderful turnout. Shows there's a lot of interest in the upcoming primary. My name is Christine Neidlein. I'm the local coordinator for the League of Women Voters of the Stevens Point area. I'm just very happy to welcome you to this candidates forum for Portage County Sheriff's candidates on Thursday, July 31st, 2014. This forum is being videotaped and will be broadcast over community access TV channels, and will also be on the city website. We will, as soon as we know when the program is going to be shown, we will put it up on the League of Women Voters website too, so you can share that information with friends and family. Before we begin our program, I want to tell you a little bit about the League of Women Voters. Those of you that have been to many of our forums have heard this before, but bear with me. The League of Women Voters was formed in 1920 after a 75-year struggle to pass the 19th Amendment gave women the right to vote. Our local chapter was formed in 1961. When you vote, you are participating in one of the most basic and important responsibilities you have as a citizen. Voting is one way that citizens can help to shape their communities. When you vote, you are empowering your political voice. But having the right to vote is not enough. The League's mission is to encourage the active and informed participation of citizens in their government. If you want to make informed decisions about how you vote, and if you want to participate in growing an informed electorate, if you believe that informed voters are absolutely essential to American democracy, then you are needed in League. The League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan political organization. This means we do not support any candidate or any political party. Sometimes there's misconceptions about that, but at the same time, we are wholeheartedly political, and we work to inform voters and to influence public policy through education and advocacy. League members study issues with local, state, and national importance. The studies expand our knowledge and guide the positions and advocacy that the League may take on an issue. Over time, the issues may change, but the League's purpose remains the same: to help make democracy work for all. Partly because of our history and name recognition, the League has decided to continue keeping women in its title, but membership in the League is open to any U.S. citizen, male and female, over 18 years of age. We have 5 male members in our local League out of 55. I invite you to join League and be directly involved in shaping important issues to keep our community strong, safe, and vibrant. Membership in a local league automatically includes membership in the state and national league, which connects you to a wide variety of issues. League members are involved at all levels. If you would like to learn more about the League of Women Voters, we welcome you to join League or make a donation to support our principal goals and activities. We have membership brochures and business cards with our website address at the table when you came in. This is not a campaign rally. This is a forum. It's not a debate. So we ask you to hold any applause until the very end of the program. Thank you. And at this time, I'd like to turn the forum over to Jerry McGinley, who will moderate this evening. Jerry?
That was a long statement.
This is the place to be tonight. Good evening. Can everybody hear me in the back? Okay. Welcome to this forum for the candidates for Portage County Sheriff. As Christine said, my name is Jerry McGinley. I am a member of the League of Women Voters of the Stevens Point area, and I have the pleasure of standing up here for the next hour or so and serving as moderator for this forum. We invited all candidates for sheriff to this forum. As you may know, the August election is very important in this race. Since the candidates are all from the same political party, only one will advance to the November election, and that person will be unopposed if there are no write-in candidates. Tonight, we are happy to see that all 4 candidates are present, and given the importance of the August election to these gentlemen, we are very happy to see all of you. We always start off with a little bit of background before we get to the questions. So a little bit about the Sheriff's Office for information for tonight. The Portage County Sheriff's Office has been serving the people of Portage County since 1842. The Sheriff's Office operates both the county jail and the 911 Dispatch Center, and works closely with the City of Stevens Point and Village of Plover Police Departments, as well as the State Patrol and Department of Natural Resources. The Sheriff's Office also works with over 24 fire departments and emergency management agencies. The Sheriff's Office consists of 48 law enforcement officers, 30 corrections officers, 19 telecommunications professionals, and 6 administrative support specialists for a total of 103 employees. The Sheriff's Office provides services to all areas of Portage County, serving a population of almost 71,000. This includes 1 city, 17 townships, and 9 villages. Operations include patrol, the Detective Bureau, the Communications Center, and special units. Patrol has 24 deputies and works 24/7 with shifts that overlap in the afternoons and evenings, so additional officers are at work during periods of peak activity. Most work 7 days on, 7 days off. The Detective Bureau is responsible for criminal investigations throughout Portage County. There are 6 detectives. The Communications Center has a manager, 2 supervisors, and 16 technicians. There are as many as 5 communication technicians working during busy times of the day. The center answers all 911 calls. Special units includes the K-9 unit, the Courthouse Services unit, the Department of Natural Resources programs, technical crash investigations, the safety officer, and the special response team. County Board supervisors are responsible for the annual county budget totaling $107 million. Of that, the Sheriff's Office budget is $10 million. The Sheriff's salary will be $80,456 in 2015. Okay, now a little bit about the format for tonight's forum. Each candidate will have 2 minutes to make an opening statement and 2 minutes to respond to questions. I will repeat questions as requested. We will rotate the order for answering questions. At the end, each candidate will have 2 minutes for a closing statement. The first question will be from the League, and then audience questions will follow. Questions from the audience must be addressed to all of the candidates. If you want to submit a question, get the attention of an usher. Where are our ushers? With the index cards and pencils, and one in the back too. League members will then screen the questions for relevance and to avoid duplication. We will begin the opening statements with Robert Gala. 2 minutes, please.
Hello, my name is Robert Gala. I'm currently a corrections officer in the Portage County Jail. I've been serving Portage County for over 23 years. Previous to that, I served with the Milwaukee County House of Correction for 3 years. My background here in the community is extensive. I've been a Democratic delegate. I am involved with We Are Central Wisconsin. I've chaired it from its inception. What We Are Central Wisconsin does is we make sure that middle class values and worker rights issues are brought to the forefront to our elected officials. We educate voters to the extent of the relevancy for our basic offices that are up for election. And that is all.
Thank you. Jim Brubaugh.
Okay, first of all, I'd like to thank the League of Women Voters for putting this forum together. This is just a fantastic turnout. Thank you, all the folks, for coming out. It gives us the opportunity to get our message out and get it firsthand from the persons that are running for sheriff. A little bit about me. I'm a lifelong resident of Portage County. I was born and raised, lived in a house just over here on the north side on 6th Avenue. Went to St. Peter's School and then on to Pacelli. I'm the oldest of 6. My father was a 40-year worker at the public service. He was a lineman over there, and as you might expect, my mother was a full-time housekeeper. I got hired in 1978, shortly after my 22nd birthday. I was lucked out. I scored my dream job in my hometown, and I have put all my focus and efforts on policing this community and working at this sheriff's department. Currently married. Lived up in the town hall for the last 32 years. I have, between my wife and I, we have 3 adult children. And I really want to continue my career, and been talking about running for sheriff for every bit of 20 years now, and been setting it up. I've worked every department within that department. I've started out on the road as a road deputy, worked for 13 years there, worked in the jail, did the home detention program, and was a court officer. I got promoted to sergeant, worked in the detective bureau for 3 years, and from there I got promoted to lieutenant and spent 12 years working on the road as a road supervisor. From there I got promoted to administrative services lieutenant, and I spent 2 years doing that, where I ran the dispatch center and the court security officers and the detective bureau. So, thank you.
Mike Lucas.
Hi, I'm Mike Lucas. I've been with, actually living in Portage County and also working for the Portage County Sheriff's Office now for 20 years. I'm originally from Antigo, a Red Robin, but moved down here. I started my career, actually I was a teacher. I was teacher up in Merrill for a year before I got into law enforcement. Started my career in actually Lane Lake County. Worked there a couple years, was fortunate enough to get hired by Portage County. Since being hired in Portage County, I've had a lot of great opportunities. I worked patrol deputy for 8 years. During working a patrol deputy, I was appointed to a field training officer where I trained new officers. I was also appointed to a firearms instructor, dive team member, and also SWAT team member. After 8 years of patrol, I got promoted to sergeant. So I got into the detective bureau. I got to work different positions in our department. I was lucky enough in the detective bureau to get assigned a cold case, which I was able to solve, which a lot of people will see coming up, because the Discovery ID channel actually just got done filming in regards to the Kobe truck driver, which I was lucky enough to coordinate with numerous other agencies, and we were able to solve that homicide. But through these years, I was able to progress in all the things that I've done in the department. From firearms instructor, I got into, they promoted me to lead firearms to head of the firearms program, where I was in charge of all the budgetary, buying firearms, buying all the supplies for the range, for the supplies for the guys, making sure that they got trained properly. I moved up the SWAT team from an entry team member to a sniper, up to the team leader, where I was in charge of the 14 to 15 man crew going in, and it was my responsibility to make sure they got home safe. Along with all those attributes that I'm talking about, the leadership skills, you know, I'm an educator. I was a safety officer in the schools. I feel very strongly about keeping people educated and informed in the public. I think that once everybody is educated, informed, and kept informed, I think that the community in the whole is better. You know, if we keep active and we set, you know, I do the neighborhood watches and we coordinate with people to make sure that everybody is active, it helps us. We don't have that many people on the road. So the more people that can help us, it helps themselves. So, thank you very much.
Kevin Sorensen.
I'm Kevin Sorensen, and I am running for the office of sheriff in Portage County, and it certainly is a pleasure to be here, and it's a pleasure to see all of you here tonight, because I know that this is important to you. We have a great responsibility that we're going to, on August 12th, we're all going to vote, and we're going to select the sheriff. And as you can tell, it's a big responsibility. We have 103 employees. The sheriff oversees a budget of $10 million. We have a daily population in our jail around 130 people a day. It's a big responsibility, and I think the next sheriff has to have those qualities to be able to bring those people together. And of course, I think I am that person. I began my career 30 years ago when I went into the United States Army as a military policeman. 10 days after my 18th birthday, I was in basic training in Alabama. I did my term in the military. I got out when I was 20 and began law enforcement over in Clark County. I've worked at a few law enforcement agencies throughout central Wisconsin. I worked in Clark County. I worked in Marshfield for 6 years. And then I had an opportunity to go back to Clark County as the jail administrator, where I helped plan and design the new jail that we built there in 1996. I maintained and oversaw the budget for the jail and the communications center in Clark County. I left there after 3 years and I went to Mosinee, where I was the police lieutenant. I assisted the chief in maintaining and developing our budget in Mosinee for 3 years. I came to Portage County 14 years ago as a single father of my 3 boys who were 7, 6, and 4 at the time. The schedule in Portage County was much more conducive to being a single father. In the last 14 years, I've been involved in several things on the department, our crash investigation team, our crisis negotiation team. I'm currently a sergeant. I supervise the deputies that work on the road, that supervise the jail and the dispatch center as a supervisor. I really believe that the sheriff needs to be the person that can manage those people, and I've demonstrated that ability by bringing people together. The vast majority of the staff and deputies support me, along with the current sheriff that's retiring has endorsed me. And the sheriff needs to have that ability to bring the villages and the townships and fire departments together to be able to work as a team in our community. And I appreciate your support on August 12th.
Okay, we'll begin with questions. The first question is from the league. And I'll direct this to Robert Gala first. Youth are our future in the county, and they face many issues regarding drugs, alcohol, heroin, and meth. What role in prevention do you believe the Sheriff's Office has, and how would you become involved?
2 minutes?
2 minutes, please.
Our youth are our most valuable resource. Our youth, education is the answer to that question. Education has so many different pipelines into the youth's, into their lives. If you're going to catch them at the late aspect of when they arrive in juvenile detention, we have fine officers there who can assist them in their lives. We have health and human services workers, social workers. All of these are venues that we can use to educate our youth. One of the projects that I've undertaken is called the Bully Project. While it doesn't have the drug and alcohol aspect to it, it is instrumental in teaching our young people respect toward one another. I'm also involved in SBIRT, which is the Screening, Brief Intervention, and Referral to Therapy. This is a new program that's being developed by the, let me see if I can get this correct, the Mental Health Association for the government, Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration, and it's being advocated by Citizen Actions of Wisconsin. This SBIRT will screen every individual that can come into the jail or have contact with our court system, have a brief intervention. If that's enough, we can control their substance abuse problems from there. If they need to be referred for therapy, we can have that as well. It's a brand new program. It's being introduced in southeastern Wisconsin. I'd like to see that expanded to central Wisconsin. It's currently paid for by government funds. It wouldn't be a drain on Portage County residents. And this is just another way of educating people for alcohol and drug abuse issues.
Jim Gruba.
Okay, we are starting to experience some serious trouble in this community with drugs. The heroin is now working itself into this community, and we need to get a handle on it. My idea on how we're going to get a handle on that is, first of all, aggressive enforcement. We have a MEG unit, which involves drug officers from different areas in the local here. It involves other counties. We have to aggressively pursue and find out where these drugs are coming from and go after them and cut it off. We have to get into education. We have to let the kids in our community and in our schools know how dangerous this drug is. And I had recently heard that one of the biggest problems in the jail right now when they bring in somebody is heroin withdrawal. These guys are out on the street, they commit a crime, they get in trouble, and they come into the jail, and then now they're a medical issue for us that we have to deal with. It's a very big problem. We need to get the judges and the district attorneys involved. A case that comes to mind on a similar path was when the gang guys tried to break into this community, and it was an incident out here in the town of Linwood. They made an example of those guys. They got sentenced to some serious time, and the judge made an example, says, we will not tolerate this in our community. The same has to happen with the drugs in this community. We have to cut it off at the pass. We have to catch it early, and we have to make an example of those folks. And we have the capable officers of doing that. And we have the help of other agencies in the area with this system on how our drug enforcement in this area goes. And I will be a big advocate for that and give these guys the resources they need to get it done. Thank you.
Mike Lucas.
Drugs in this community, I mean, on a daily basis, you're reading in the paper a sad story of a family being broken, somebody losing their life. And as sheriff, I'm going to focus on the drug problem. For the past 12 years, I've been teaching drug safety in the schools, a counteract program, assisting, and was in charge of that for many years. We teach that in the middle school. We talk about alcohol, chemicals, and troubles, and how we can get involved so that these kids do not get on drugs. You know, the big focus that we need to really look at is we can enforce it, but we need help from the community that's seeing this. If we have help out in the community that's telling us where this is going on, then we can put people out there. You know, Jim is correct. We got a MEG unit that does a great job, but without community support and without community help, if we just turn our back on it, it's gonna progress. You know, the other thing too, in regards to the drugs that we have in the community now, you know, throwing somebody in jail on withdrawals, is that the answer? You know, we need to look at the alternative sentencings in regards to a drug court, alcohol court. You know, look at some of the rehabilitation needs that these people need that we can actually use to keep them productive in society with their families and paying taxes and being on the community. So I think those are things I'm going to focus on if I become sheriff. Thank you.
Kevin Sorensen.
This is definitely an important area, and we're talking about the children of our community, and I'd like to see that we get involved with the children of our community long before they get into our juvenile detention center or they get into our jail and the heroin becomes a big issue. It becomes through educational programs. We have a deputy friendly that goes into our schools, and we work in partnership with the Stevens Point Police Department, where their officer, their school liaisons, and we get into the schools and we teach the kids about drug use and making good decisions and being responsible, and those issues are taught in our school. My opponents have talked about our MEG unit, and they've done an excellent job over the years. First, for a long time, it was the meth labs that were a problem in our community, and they targeted that and curbed that. And then it was our prescription drug problem in our county, and our MEG unit worked in cooperation with our pharmacies and our doctors to help change some of the rules in our community, so the pharmacies weren't just giving out prescription medications when somebody would lose their medications. In the truth, they were selling them and then wanting them a refill. So we worked with those people to change that. And I agree with my opponents that we need to be aggressive with our drug issues. We can educate our patrol. We can get them in a position with our adjoining agencies working together. And I really think all of this is about relationships. It's about relationships with our schools. It's about relationships with Health and Human Services, that we can work together to develop these programs. We can't do it by ourselves. We have to work together with them. We have to work with Stevens Point Police and Plover Police. We have to work with the school counselors and the teachers to target the areas that are concerned and educate our youth when they're young and small before they make those poor decisions and end up in our juvenile detention center. So we need to target those long before that. And it comes through education, through working in the community and working together with those agencies.
Okay. Our next question, I'll start with Jim Gruba. Would increased background checks for purchase of firearms improve public safety in Portage County and in Wisconsin?
That's a tough question. Yes. I believe that we have a good system right now for gun safety and the gun trading issue in our community. We unfortunately don't have these serious issues in our community. Will an increased gun background check on every level, like between Mike and I, even passing a gun, help? Yes, it probably will. We have a system in place now where anytime you buy a gun at any vendor or a store, sporting goods place, Gander Mountain, you get background checked. You also get background checked if you win a gun at a Ducks Unlimited or a grouse banquet. There's a lot of steps in place already for that. Unfortunately, the folks that are getting the firearms aren't the guys that are getting them from there. They're getting them from another felon who shouldn't have them in the first place and is selling them to them. The bad guys want to get guns. They're going to get guns. They're going to get them from us, the people that are responsible with gun safes, and take care of them and have them locked up through burglaries. The bad guys can get all the guns they want out on the streets, and they just constantly will just move them to the other bad guys. We have to balance, you know, the safety of the community with the rights of the community as well. To answer your question directly, will those things put in place help the safety? Yes, I agree they will. Is that something that our legislature and the people in Madison or Washington are going to get in place now? I don't know. I also believe it's not my job to be a legislator. I will do everything I can to keep the people in this community safe with the tools that we have at our disposal.
Mike Lucas.
Universal background checks. I've addressed this and I've read about this a lot. I have a lot of guns. My father-in-law, he has a lot of guns. I think there's a huge loophole in gun shows. And I talked about this at a lot of events. I do believe background checks should be mandatory at all gun shows, because the gun dealers are getting an unfair shake from the people that are coming in regards to private citizens. The problem I have with universal background checks is, if I were to sell a gun to Jim, I would need a federal license, $90 plus $113, $25. So it'd be like $125, I'm figuring, for a background check. If I have a crappy shotgun and I'm selling it for, it's a $100 gun, it's going to cost another $125. That's where I have an issue. I think they should dump the fees. We should have an 800 number, and for my liability's sake, if I would be calling on every time I sold a gun to make sure somebody's not a felon, doesn't have a domestic abuse, doesn't have mental health issues before I give them that gun. That would be my recommendation for the universal background checks. Thank you.
Kevin Sorensen.
As you heard from the beginning, the sheriff has a lot of responsibility with 103 employees. Our dispatch center takes in 32,000 calls a year for service. Our investigators are following up on 300 investigations a year. We have drug and alcohol issues in our community. We have lots of issues and responsibilities that the sheriff is responsible. And one of them that he's not responsible for is creating legislation, creating laws. Do I think another law will change that? I don't believe that. I've been doing this for almost 30 years. I've seen a lot of violence, seen a lot of things in our community. There are places in the United States that have the strictest gun laws that there are, and they still have violence. I think making more laws will not cause that to happen. I mean, the sheriff has a lot of responsibilities that we have that we need to deal with in our own community. One of the biggest causes of death in our community are traffic crashes. We have drug and alcohol issues. We have people's houses getting broke in, property being damaged. Those are the things that we focus on at the Portage County Sheriff's Office. The quality of life issues in your neighborhood. Is a deputy getting into your neighborhood where your children are playing in the playgrounds? Are they getting there where you have a sense of security and safety? Public safety is our issue. That's what's important to me, that in your neighborhoods that you're safe, and that, that your children are safe when they come and go from school and on the buses, that those are the services that we provide. Do I think making other laws, unfortunately, we're not going to know if someone has mental health issues with HIPAA laws. We're not going to know that. Making a law to make that safer, I don't believe that. But I do believe that all those things that the sheriff is responsible in our community to make you safe and make your children safe and to protect our children from predators. That's what's important to me. So, thank you.
Robert Gala.
Yes, I am in favor of universal background checks being used extensively, and I will advocate for them at every turn.
I've been handed a card just to remind folks to turn off your cell phones, silence them if you haven't already. I haven't heard any, but I'm way up here. So thank you very much. Okay, the next question, we will start with Mike Lucas.
Is that my timer?
Okay.
That's my timer. That was good. Wish you'd gave me the question first. So I could
I know.
Mark.
Okay, let's try it again. Mike Lucas, does Portage County need a new jail? If so, where should it be located?
No, it doesn't. I've done a lot of research. I've crunched the numbers. I've really looked into this. Right now we have a 79-bed jail. Yes, it needs remodeling. Yes, there's things that we can definitely do better in there. But right now we're contracting 35 beds over to Waupaca County at $32 a bed. Our transports cost roughly $24,000 a year. That's 125 years for what a jail might cost us. And I'm going off of figures in regards to the referendum. I look at the wages, I look at the space, how much it costs for our jail. I see that right now with alternative sentencings just breaching, the courts are all for it, the district attorney's all for it. Law enforcement hasn't been for it. They're talking about a drug court, an alcohol court, a veterans court, and a mental health court. Waupaca County, Marathon County, Wood County have all gone to this to alleviate some of their jail. I think we'd be jumping the gun here, building this jail prior to seeing if we're going to reduce population in there. That's a hefty price to pay to find out later on that our jail population is down, state contracts aren't coming to the jails, and now all of a sudden we have an empty jail, and if you read in the paper, we're going to have more staff. Where are we going to get the tax money for that? I'm a taxpayer. I don't like to see my taxes go up. I'm frugal with my budget. I've been frugal with the budgets for the sheriff's office. I'm concerned about that. We remodel our jail, 4 years down the line, 5 years down the line, alternative sentencing does not work. We got a great Huber facility that we can rent out to surrounding counties and we can build. But for right now, I see there's no need for us to jump the gun and build a big corrections facility.
Kevin Sorensen.
The county board has decided that there's a need for the jail. There have been lots of studies done for the need for our jail. I believe that we need to build a jail because of the money that we are spending currently. We're targeted at spending almost $500,000 this year housing inmates in other jails. If we remodel our jail, it's not going to solve the problems there is. Some of the needs are the safety issues for our staff in the jail, the way it's laid out. Safety for the inmates in our jail is important. We have mental health issues in the jail that we need to deal with, but we can't because we don't have the space. There's medical issues in the jail that we need to deal with, but we can't. There are times where we have to have a deputy sit at the hospital because we're not able to care for those in a secure setting, so we have a jail guarding them. If we wait 15 years to see whether alternative sentencing is going to work, as all of you know, if you build a house or build a garage, if we build now, it's going to cost X amount of dollars. If we wait 15 years with material and labor costs, that's going to go up. Our jail was full in 1998, and since that time, we've spent $8 million housing inmates in other jails. At some point, we're going to be forced by Department of Corrections to build a jail, to change our jail, to bring it up to Department of Corrections standards. If we wait 15 years, we're going to spend $500,000 a year, plus transport costs, and meanwhile, the safety and security within our jail are issues. We are concerned for our staff in the jail the way it currently is. So I do think that we need to build a new jail, but ultimately that's going to be up to our county board to decide whether it's downtown or whether it's outside of town. They're going to decide, and they've decided that there's a need. And as potentially the sheriff, I need to be prepared to provide the leadership to them, to walk them through that and what our need is and what the need for the county is.
Robert Gala.
I would like to see it, in regard to the new jail, no. I don't think we are ready for a new jail at this time. We haven't explored all of our possibilities in regard to alternative sentencing. We haven't made full use of our home detention program. There are counties in Wisconsin, whereas if you are sentenced to county jail time, you serve it on the ankle bracelet. Home detention program, or HDP, is underutilized in our county, and I'd like to see it utilized much, much more. Having 6 people on HDP, that's not acceptable. We need to increase that. There are spaces in the jail that are underutilized, and I'd like to explore those options. So I would not like to spend tens of millions of dollars on a new jail when our current contract is under $500,000 for a year. It's going to take many, many, many years to make up that difference. So I think that we should keep going, stay the course, stay where we are, do what we can with what we have, and make it work.
Jim Gruba.
Okay, I also have been on the side of building a new jail. I have made that public. I agree with the county board. They have been talking about this for a long time. They made a decision and passed a resolution to get going on this project and get going on it in 2015. I believe they made the right choice. And if you've been watching and reading the paper, you will see that Sheriff John Charwitz thinks we need a new jail. Chief Deputy Dan Contos thinks we need a new jail. The captain of the jail believes we need a new jail. A lot of people in the right positions that know the facts think we need a new jail. I worked in that jail. I know it has some problems, and I know it's got some issues. We need to look towards the future. We need to build something that we can expand on. We need to build something that will meet our needs now. And we don't have to just think of the jail. Justice Works is doing a heck of a job with everything they do. And the restorative justice, the day report, they're doing a great job, and I agree with everything they're doing, and I will support that 100%. But our courts send over too many people that we can accommodate in our jail. There's certain pigeonholes that these folks in the programming can be put in. There's a surplus of people that don't meet those criteria and have to spend time in the jail. We've got a sweetheart deal for bed space in Wapaka. That's going to go away. We're not going to see $32 a bed a night ever again. What's going to happen is their needs go up, we're going to get pushed out. When we need to write a new contract, that price is going to be a lot higher. As far as where it should be located, I believe it should be located further out. I've talked to people in the community near and around the jail. It's not so much the jail issue, it's our department where they're afraid to back out of their driveways, squad cars are speeding, 2 emergency calls, and it's just wrought with issues and safety problems. I would like it outside, but I'm willing to listen to all sides.
All right. Next question, we will start with Kevin Sorensen. Does the Sheriff's Office have enough staff for today's safety needs?
I think the staff that we currently have certainly is sufficient for what we are doing. John Charwitz has done an excellent job over the last 12 years as sheriff, using the staff and rearranging the staff that we have, the numbers that we have on patrol that are patrolling your neighborhoods, patrolling in the night, at nighttime, securing businesses and towns, the number of investigators that we have. I think the staff that we have has been stretched. The numbers haven't really grown that much over the years. And we've been called, our calls for service have increased. In the last several years, we've grown our court services, our requirements to maintain security in our courts over the years. So I think the job that we're doing and the staff that's been put in place to oversee the different areas within the Sheriff's Office have done an excellent job. And I think moving forward, I think the community can be assured that the public safety needs are being met in Portage County.
Robert Gala.
with 103 staff, we are meeting the needs of Portage County, but just barely. Our presence is probably the #1 issue in any community. I'm not sure if a lot of people know this, but police officers, as law enforcement officers, our first line of defense is presence. Okay? When we show up at a scene, when we show up at a disturbance within the jail, our first, just being there is going to quell some of the disturbances. Secondly, we verbalize. So I'd say about 95% of our work is showing up, being there, showing ourselves, showing our strengths, and talking to people. We need more people just to have staff, just to have our presence known throughout the community, especially in the jail. We are scheduled to be at minimum staffing on a regular, daily basis. To me, that's unacceptable. I don't know any other department that is scheduled to be at bare minimum staffing on a regular, daily basis in the jail. It's a concern for safety, it's a concern for other staff members, it's a concern for maternity leave or military leave or sick time or vacation time. That if somebody retires or if somebody quits or gets fired, there's an emergency. To me, that's not acceptable. I believe that we need more staff within the jail, and I believe we could use more staff on the road.
Jim Gruba.
Okay, we have gotten by very well by juggling people around and putting them where we needed to. Because by virtue of our schedule, we are able to do a lot of things with our department and get the coverage that we need with a minimal amount of people. Would I like to see more staff? Absolutely. As an administrator, who wouldn't? If we had that extra person to send to an event or send to a town hall meeting or send them to some type of gathering somewhere and still have adequate road coverage, that would be great. Getting them out, talking to the public, taking them off the road so that they can go to an event would be great. But right now, and I agree with Rob on this, we are at a minimum. There are so many times as a lieutenant where I had somebody call in sick that did put us in a bind, whether it was in the jail or the dispatch or on the road, where we were scrambling to find somebody. And it's hard sometimes to get somebody to come in, or there's just nobody available. So we can get by. We have the option of moving people around. There is a little bit of leeway probably if we had to take some people and put them in a little bit different positions. In case of an emergency, oftentimes if we have like a weather event, you know, the detectives have been out on those highways calling wreckers in suits for guys that, or for cars that have gone in the ditch. We have always been able to make it happen, and we've always been able to get by. Yes, we're probably at the bare minimum, and we're getting along just fine, but as an administrator, it would be really be great to get more people to spend time in the community. I would like to get somebody designated, again, that their only job is to go from village to village to village on a daily basis and just hang out in that village. And we'd like to have 2 of them for 1 week on and the other week that guy's off, the other guy be on. Just be able to get that contact and get that connection with the community. That would be his only job. Thank you.
Mike Lucas.
As an administrator, yeah, you want more staff. Have we got by? Yes. Do I think we can move forward and get another officer or 2? Yeah. I think you know, we're missing the boat on some areas like a rec officer because we do the DNR patrols. I mean that's funded, you know, 60 to 100% by the Department of Natural Resources, and we've never looked into that or done it. I was in charge of that, so I know that we can fund an officer. I think that we need to really start utilizing or looking at getting somebody else in the jail to help out with the home monitoring, the HDP. Those are areas I think that we're kind of short right now. I think on the road, I agree with Jim. You know, the community policing officers that we had back when we had 2 officers, I think that's a great thing. But then again, we have 37,000 calls a year for service. By the time somebody steps their foot out of the car, they're getting a call for service. So I keep falling back on getting the public more involved so that we can alleviate some of those calls so that these officers can step out of the cars, they can come to the communities, they can come talk to the neighborhood watch groups, they come for the coffee. Anyways, I think in the future, we have to look for staffing in regards to making sure that, you know, safety and security are met for the needs of the community. Right now, I believe we are meeting those needs, but there can be some jockeying around in regards to some of the positions.
All right, our next question, we will start with Robert Gala. Mental health issues are seen in many more cases faced by the Sheriff's Office. What training in identification and referral services should the department have?
The resources that have become available to to people affected with mental health issues has dwindled and gone in many places, but it's not going to our Sheriff's Department. I've seen an increase in the jail with mental health people. We've been incarcerating many more people who are affected by mental health issues, and our staff is not trained to handle that. We definitely need to address that issue. I'd like to work with the mental health, their name slips me, the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Association, see what kind of training that we can get for our officers. In the jail, the stays have become more frequent and greater in length. Just in the juvenile detention facility alone, we've seen an increase in numbers because places like St. Elizabeth or Winnebago or even Mendota aren't accepting people anymore. It's taken so long to get people into treatment that the overflow of people suffering from mental illness is coming into our jail. It's going to cause an issue sooner than later. And I just hope that nobody gets hurt, and staff or inmate alike. So we have to get some training. I'd like to look into contacting the governmental associations to see what we can do about that.
Jim Gruba.
Okay, as far as training goes, we have had training on dealing with emotionally disturbed people since day one. I mean, I remember that training in my recruit school in 1978. We have in-service trainings at work where we have mandatory training. Throughout the year, we have to get a number of hours. That has been ongoingly addressed. When I was setting up in-service training, I remember getting Doc Curtis over from the hospital, and he did a program on recognizing people going through crises and how to deal with them and how to actually keep them alive if they do have a major crisis. The hospital or the ambulance personnel and the hospital now are trained on administering drugs at the last second to keep somebody from actually having a crisis and dying. I do agree with Rob. We have way too many people that have emotional issues ending up in our jail. I mean, none of us here can ever, deny the fact that we walked into the jail and saw somebody that should not be there. It just was, they were right on that edge where we couldn't take them to Madison, we couldn't take them to Oshkosh, and unfortunately, they were in our jail. And a lot of times when these folks go off of their meds, they do things that gets our attention where we have to step in and do something. And they commit some type of crime or get in trouble with their probation agents, and they end up in our facility. They don't belong there. We need to really focus on keeping our human services departments in our county funded to help these people and keep them out of our jails. We've all worked with social workers who have called us and said, hey, so-and-so hasn't been showing up for his shots, he hasn't been showing up for his pills, get ready, you might have a problem this weekend with him because this is what always happens. We get that kind of a heads up notice, but we need to give human services a lot more help and a bigger hand in preventing these things from coming up. Thank you.
Mike Lucas.
Can you just repeat the question so I make sure I cover it?
Sure. Mental health issues are seen in many more cases faced by the Sheriff's Office. What training in identification and referral services should the office have?
Mental health has been a big issue. We deal with it on a daily basis. I think all officers do. We have had numerous training. Jim set up training. I also set up training for our in-service in regards to how to deal with situations, because you can't deal with them in normal law enforcement tools. You can't use a taser. They could have excited delirium and they could die on you. So you have to know how to deal with these people. But the first problem we have is that we don't know that there's a problem with them. So when you come to a scene and somebody's acting bizarre, we don't know if he's got mental health issues. And the big reason is because HIPAA. HIPAA doesn't allow a lot of information out to law enforcement or the general population. And I know that HIPAA's not going to relax, so I don't know how we can, inter-county, start to give information out to our local records, so that we have a heads up when we're going to a residence that there is going to be an issue or there has been problems with this, social services, and that we can prepare ourselves for that person. That's going to have to be coordinated with St. Michael's, with social services, with the law enforcement agencies, so that we can try to combat some of this issue. But again, alternative sentencing, mental health court. We're not throwing them in jail then. They're going to go get treatment right away somewhere, so that the sanctions are out there, so they're not going to be sitting in jail waiting for that treatment. Look into the mental health court is something that is very important, I think, because those people are going to get the help right away that they need, and they're going to get the medications and not sit in the jail and wait and wait and wait until something bad happens, or they get released from jail and it happens all over again. Thank you.
Kevin Sorensen.
When I was a jail administrator in 1996 in Clark County, this issue was a topic then of how you deal with mental health issues in the jail. Across the state, counties are probably some of the largest mental health institutions across our state. We deal with the people in crisis on a regular basis. As Jim states, as law enforcement officers, we have training and basic training in emotionally disturbed persons and taught how to deal with those things on the street. But ultimately, they come into our jail. If you came into our jail, you'd see a big toolbox. It looks like a Craftsman toolbox, except it's not red. That's filled with medications for our inmates that are in the jail that are on various psychotropic drugs and for depression, anxiety, to keep them calm while they're in the jail. It's a real problem. It's the reality of our jail, of the people that are in there with mental health issues, and we have to deal with those things on a daily basis. And it goes back to the jail issues. We don't have the facilities to deal with those people. There are systems and places that we could have in a new facility to deal with those kind of things and to increase our care, basically our care for these mentally disturbed inmates that we have. And we have a lot of them in the jail just by nature of the crimes that they commit and getting into our jail. So our staff is trained. We can always train more, and it comes with building those relationships with Health and Human Services. I know the state has cut funding to them over the years, so they don't monitor those folks in our community with the mental health issues as much as they used to. It is definitely a concern, but it's something that we, again, work together in partnership with Health and Human Services and the counselors to develop those programs that meet the needs within our community. And those things are being addressed.
Okay. Our next question, we'll start with Jim Gruba. Portage County is an aging population. What challenges does this give the Sheriff's Office?
Okay, the challenges we're facing right now is I'm seeing some of our aging population being taken advantage of. I was just recently involved in a case where a friend called and they were being scammed. Fortunately, things worked out. They called at the right time. I was able to intercept a bunch of money that was sent to California, and we got it back. It was a case of where the cybercrime things, the community at large, are being sought out. My mother had the same issues where we had to literally change her phone number that she had forever because they had her on a target list. So my thing right now is not only, do we need to protect our children, we can't forget about our parents. They are being targeted more and more and more because they are an easy mark. And these folks that I had dealt with are normally very sharp, very productive in this community yet, but she was set up so perfectly that they believe that she talked to her grandson on the phone who was in a jail. And it wasn't, like it says, until we got involved that we were able to save that. So protecting them from being identity theft is a big priority with me, or being scammed out of something. We need to make sure that they have access to everything else that we've got in this community, that they can get to events. We have to make sure that we have healthcare facilities for them. That's going to be a big issue for the county coming up. If you've been watching the news, that's an issue. And so as law enforcement, we have to be out there, we have to be diligent that to make sure that these folks' needs are being met, that they can still get around our community, and they're not being taken advantage of. Thank you.
Mike Lucas.
You know, I've talked about being an educator and a teacher, and through my safety programs, I deal with the Triad organization in regards to the aging population over at the aging facility. And every Wednesday, there's an Ask a Cop. They come in, they can ask law enforcement if they got a question in regards to some safety. I try to inform everybody in regards to what programs and what the sheriff's office can do for them. I mean, we can do vacant home checks. You know, we do the neighborhood watch programs. We get the neighborhoods involved so that if we do have a bunch of elderly people on a block, they're checking on each other. And if nobody hears from that person, then they email me. So, and I'm in contact with these neighborhood watch people all the time, and I do vacant home checks. We just had this big neighborhood watch program in Park Ridge, and I did like 15 home checks just for security checks in regards to lighting, bushes, things in their driveway, so that these people feel a little bit more secure. Plus, then they get more active in the community. I strongly, believe that the people just need to be more involved in their community. And when we can come out and inform them the programs that we deal with or that we can offer them, it's just all the better. Thanks.
Kevin Sorensen.
I agree, and I guess we don't really part ways on this topic. All the candidates here, I think we all feel that the elderly in our community are, unfortunately, become victims over the last several years. There's a lot of computer scams, telephone scams. These people are being victimized by calling, and they trust. Our elderly trust people that call them. I think it comes through education. Through us getting out there, we have the opportunity to educate the community through different programs. Years ago, I worked in Marshfield for the police department, and I did the crime prevention and neighborhood watch programs there. And I started an apartment watch program where we went into the elderly apartment complexes and we talked to them about coming and going from their building, answering their phone, being aware of their surroundings when they get out of their car and they walk into their building, and when people ask for money, what should they do? That if they want to donate money, there's a lot of local charities that they could give to, and not giving through charitable telephone calls and solicitations over the phone. Unfortunately, our deputy state calls occasionally with our elderly are victimized, and it's certainly unfortunate, and we help them through that process and do what we can. We do have detectives that are part of their job is to deal with the cyber crimes, and we have the equipment within the sheriff's office to do some of those investigations to track some of these people down that victimize our elderly. So we are taking steps at the sheriff's office to work through those things. I think that we could do some more educating in the community, though, to bring awareness that these kind of scams are out there so they're not victimized.
Robert Gala.
Could you repeat the question, please?
Sure. Portage County is an aging population. What challenges does this give the sheriff's office?
Our community as a whole is undergoing numerous changes. We've all discussed about the prescription drugs, the heroin, that are becoming issues with our young people, and a lot of times it is a result of elder abuse. My mom was recently a victim of elder abuse. Thank God it didn't turn physical, but her prescription drugs were taken, her money was taken, and this is a huge problem. If we teach our seniors what to look for, what to be on the lookout for, when to look for it, I think it's really going to make a huge difference in protecting the whole family. I know that from firsthand experience that mom had a hard time dealing with what happened. And it was directly due to her lack of knowledge. So I think that once we get programs in place, we have to get the elderly to these programs. We have to show them what to look for, and we have to make sure that we follow up with that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We have time for one more question before we do the closing statements. We will start with Mike Lucas on this question. What is your background in budgeting and finance? Safety in the courts and jails is a concern both with budget and future plans. How would you address dealing with them?
My experience with budgets, first of all, is I've had numerous budgets through the Sheriff's Office for the past 20 years. I mentioned one before. I was in charge of the firearms program, ordering all the firearm supplies, the weapons, the training, also helped build part of the new law enforcement range. So I had opportunities to make sure that I was keeping in budget, and Chief Deputy made sure of that. Also, I was in charge of the safety budget. Safety budget includes part of the neighborhood watch programs, part of the all the 11 schools that we service in regards to all the school programs from stranger danger, mystery yuck, and fingerprinting, and counteract, and all those. We also ran the safety cadet program with the safety budget. I also had the training budget for operations, administration, and for corrections. Every year that there's a mandate that law enforcement has so many hours of training, we have a training budget that requires people to go out of town, so we have, you know, hotel stays, we have registration fees. So we have to weigh with checks and balances in regards to who can go and who can't in regards to how much money's in those budgets. And I also was in charge of the DNR budget for the patrols and for the safety talks. Was in charge of all the DNR hunter safety, the boat, snowmobile, and ATV. I was also in charge of the patrols when we patrol with our boat, and we also patrol ATV and snowmobile. In charge of purchasing the equipment, maintaining the equipment, making sure everything in regards to equipment for the guys out on the field were up to date, and I have to purchase that and make sure I was under budget every year. Working with grants also. I worked with our county executive in regards to grants for ATVs and other trailers for our patrols. In regards to the last part, the court services.
I think you're out of time.
Okay. I knew I was missing something though.
Kevin Sorensen.
Could you repeat the question, please?
Sure. What is your background in budgeting and finance? Safety in the courts and jails is a concern both with budget and future plans. How would you address dealing with them?
I believe in the last 30 years in my law enforcement career, 10 of those years were in administrative management experiences. I was the lieutenant or jail administrator in charge of the Clark County Jail, where I was part of maintaining and assembling our annual budget for the jail and the communication center for Clark County. At the time, we had 40 inmates and 12 employees. During my time there, I was involved in planning and designing the jail that we built there in 1996, expanding to a 120-bed jail. I was instrumental with the county board and through the planning process and the budget process in putting that together. I maintained the entire jail budget, not just the line item of the jail or a specific part of the budget, but the entire budget from payroll and equipment and the supplies that we needed in the jail. As the police lieutenant in Mosinee, I was second in command of the police department under the chief and was directly responsible for putting that budget together for a 7-officer police department for the city of Mosinee. I was directly related with worked with our city administrator in putting that budget together on an annual basis. Currently, I am the president of the Wisconsin Professional Police Association. I've been on that board of directors for 10 years. It's the largest police organization in the state, and we represent just under 10,000 members. I was recently re-elected to my third year term as president, and I sit on a 27-person board of directors that oversees a $3.2 million budget for the Wisconsin Professional Police Association. For 2 of those years, I was also the treasurer prior to being elected as president. So I believe my experience in law enforcement, my experience in administrative and management positions, and having full control of budgets is certainly, I think, beneficial and makes me the best candidate for sheriff. I believe our responsibilities in the courts and security are huge. And that's the reasons why I think we need to look at a jail, because of those safety issues for our employees, safety issues for our inmates. And I believe those areas are important for us, and my experience will certainly help us through that.
Robert Gala.
I'm probably the complete opposite. All of my personal budgetary concerns have been private, been personal. I have very limited exposure to massive budgets. My wife and I have been facilitators of Dave Ramsey's Financial Peace University, and I can tell you one thing, that we are not going to go into debt. My personal finance has been stellar. The organizations that I've worked with have been on time and on budget. However, they're all small budgets. So my experience there, I'm looking forward to gaining some. Thank you.
Jim Gruba.
Okay, my experience as the administrative lieutenant when I was at the Sheriff's Department involved the budget for the dispatch center and the detective bureau and the training as well, and the courts. As that administrator, that was my responsibility to see that we were staying within budget, people were getting trained as they were supposed to, and the overtime budgets were met. I also, for 10 years, was the grant administrator for the Sheriff's Department. Anytime you heard a click it or ticket campaign thing, or a speed waves, be careful, we're gonna have a bunch of extra people out on the weekend type of initiative, those were my grants. I was the liaison between the state, and over the course of those years, I administered hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of grants. I wrote the schedules for the guys to work it, and I wrote we have to do match, we have to come up with monies to offset some of that grant as a part of being awarded that grant. It took a lot of administrative work and a lot of time to make that happen. So I have a lot of experience with those grants and dealing with them with the state, where they don't allow for any mistakes. It's like when you're doing your report, it's got to be right, or it can jeopardize a grant for you in the future. We actually did so well with the grants that occasionally somebody would turn down a grant, and as the process was going on, and they would say, hey, you guys do a great job, you know, can you get this money out and get it to work yet for us this year? So I'm proud of the job that I did there. As far as budgets go, there's no budget limitations on safety in our department. Whatever it takes, we have to make sure the workers in the jail, the workers on the road, or the workers anywhere in that facility are safe. If there takes some budget wrangling and moving around to make and keep things safe for our personnel, it's going to happen. And that's my belief.
Now the candidates have the opportunity to make a closing statement and possibly address issues that were not covered in the questions. Each will have 2 minutes, and we will go in the reverse order from the opening statements. So we will begin with Kevin Sorensen.
Thank you. Well, it certainly was a pleasure being here, and I'm glad I had an opportunity to talk with all of you, and I'm glad that you had an opportunity to meet us and listen to some of our views on issues. Next, on August 12th, we're all going to go to the polls, and we're going to select the person that we think is the best person to be our next sheriff. And that person really needs to be somebody that has strong law enforcement experience, that knows the duties that our deputies perform in all areas of the sheriff's office. I believe the sheriff needs to have the leadership qualities in order to lead those 103 people to perform the duties that we do out in our community. I believe in the last 30 years that I have earned that leadership experience through my time as a jail administrator in Clark County, as a police lieutenant in Mosinee, as my time as president of the Wisconsin Professional Police Association, where I've provided services to just under 10,000 people across the state through the WPPA. We all have experience. We all have law enforcement experience, and as you can see, some of you are probably going to have a tough choice when you go to the polls. But I think what separates us is our ability to work with others, our ability to communicate with people in the community. We have to work together. We have to work in partnership and in collaboration with all agencies across our county, whether it be Stevens Point Police, whether it be the Plover Police Department, the fire departments, the villages and the townships. They all have issues in their villages, and we have to work together. Our budgets are getting tighter. All of you, I'm sure, do not want to pay more property taxes, so our budgets aren't raising, but as you've seen on the news, our calls for services are increasing every year, and we're called to do more with less. And only through good leadership can that be done. And I have demonstrated my ability to bring people together. The vast majority of the staff and the deputies on the sheriff's office are supporting me. If any of you have been at any of the parades where we've had the polka bands, and we just had a great time doing that. I've had a lot of support and people helping me within the sheriff's office, deputies and staff alike, along with the current sheriff, John Charwitz, who has endorsed me in my candidacy. So I thank you for having us here, and I appreciate your vote on August 12th.
Mike Lucas.
Again, thank you for allowing us to come in and see our views in regards to some of the major issues that you have. And I look forward to, if anybody has any other questions after this, they can always email or Facebook. We all have email and Facebook, and I encourage that. When you're looking at come August 12th, I think you need to look at, for your next sheriff, who's vested in this community. Who's been in the community, who's paid property taxes, who has a family raising up in the community, and who wants to make it safe and secure for their family. I'm that person. Okay, I moved here 20 years ago. I bought a place. People welcome me in open arms, and this is a very friendly community. I think through my law enforcement career in Portage County, with my education and my leadership roles that I've had, I think that I'm the clear choice come August 12th for your vote. Thank you.
Jim Gruba.
Okay, well, I am also going to run my record out there. I've 34 years on the Portage County Sheriff's Department. I've worked every part of that department that is possible to work. I have firsthand experience with our department, and I ask you to please look at the resume. These guys are good guys. I can tell you that. I've been their supervisor for most of their career. You're all good guys. And I can tell you that. I've been their supervisor, they're good guys, but where I think we separate is at that resume. I have the experience in our county. I know how it works. I have worked for 7 different sheriffs. I have 5 of those guys openly supporting me, putting their reputation on the line, saying, Jim Grube is the guy to be your next sheriff. Now, aside from all of that, I think the commitment to the community is very important. Mike and I know Rob, we think that same way. I've born and raised in this community. I have connections with this community that can only come from living here my entire life. I have schoolmates here. I have business associates that I've met, and so many friends over the 58 years that I've lived here that can only be accomplished by being here my whole life. So what that does is that I oftentimes refer to my community and my department just because I've been so devoted to this department and to this community. Again, I want to reiterate, I scored my dream job in my hometown. I didn't travel, I didn't have to go anywhere. I put all my spare time when I wasn't a gymnastics, a wrestling, or a football dad into the department. That's why I spent 27 years on the SWAT team. I founded and ran a dive team. I did all the DNR safety programs. I did all the grants. We asked the same thing. Take a look at the resumes, because that's where I feel you will see the big difference with the experience here in Portage County and the experience here with the Portage County people. And again, thank you very much for putting up with us tonight.
Robert Gala.
I want to thank the League of Women Voters. I want to thank you all for coming out. Resumes are important, but I think it's also important what we're going to do, what we're going to advocate for, what we're going to advocate against. Portage County doesn't need a new jail. Portage County needs to explore alternatives to incarceration. We need to better utilize the home detention program. Universal background checks should be implemented at every turn. There are certain things that these three gentlemen have that I don't. Portage County is the luckiest county ever because their next sheriff is going to be great, no matter who's elected. They're all fine, upstanding law enforcement officers, and I'm honored and privileged to have worked with all of them. Thank you very much.
This concludes the Okay. All right. So this concludes the Portage County Sheriff Forum. Thank you, candidates. Thank you, audience, for participating and attending this evening. Remember, Election Day is August 12th. Have a good evening. Thank you.